The airport is a graveyard that forgot to lie down. Thousands of them shuffle across the terminal, dragging their feet across cracked linoleum, bumping into each other without apology, staring at nothing with the hollow, glassy patience of people who stopped expecting anything a long time ago. The departure boards have been dark for years, the shoppers looted, ransacked, cobwebbed. The PA system is dead, and yet they're still here, still moving, still haunting the one place that used to mean going somewhere. R is one of them, pale, sunken-eyed, wearing a red hoodie that was probably someone else's, shuffling through the terminal with his hands in his pockets. He looks like a college kid who stayed up too many nights in a row and never quite recovered. Except he's dead, has been for a while now. He doesn't know how long. Time stopped mattering when his heart did. But here's what makes R different from every other corpse in that terminal, he thinks. Not clearly, not in full sentences. But something is still firing behind those gray eyes. Something that watches the other zombies and feels, if not exactly sadness, then something uncomfortably close to it. Why do I keep shuffling? He wonders, dragging himself past a collapsed newsstand. Why can't I talk? Why can't I remember anything, not even my name? It starts with R, maybe. That's all I've got. He moves through the terminal like a man walking through the worst day of his life on a permanent loop. He passes other zombies, thousands of them, and notices how none of them look at each other, how they exist in perfect, terrible isolation even while being surrounded. He watches two zombies bump into each other, grunt, then shuffle apart. That was social interaction, he thinks. That was as good as it got now. He has one friend, and he uses that word the way you'd use it to describe a rock you've named. M. Bigger than R growling where R grunts. But M stands next to R in the terminal sometimes, and that counts for something in a world where standing next to someone voluntarily is the closest thing to love you're going to find. What's wrong with us? R thinks, staring out through the massive terminal windows at a sky that hasn't changed in what feels like years. What happened? There was something before this. I can almost feel it. Like trying to remember a dream 3 hours after waking up. Gone before you can grab it. There are two kinds of their kind. R knows this. There are the regular undead, like him, shuffling, grunting, craving flesh but still resembling something vaguely human in shape. And then there are the bonies, the ones who have given up whatever remains of humanity entirely. Skeletal, fast, terrifying. They've stripped themselves of every soft tissue, every vestige of who they used to be. They run the airport. They enforce the only law that exists in this dead world. Survive on instinct, nothing more. R avoids the bonies. Everyone does. Even the other zombies fear them, which is remarkable when you consider that zombies themselves are supposed to be the thing that living people fear. He has a home of sorts, a grounded 747 parked at one of the jetways. Inside, he's collected things, records, a vinyl player he somehow got working, snow globes, a painting, trinkets and treasures from a world he can barely remember but apparently still misses, because why else would he keep bringing them back? His collection is a symptom of something the other zombies don't seem to have anymore. Longing. A ghost of a feeling that somewhere once there was more than this. He listens to music in the dark of that plane. The needle drops on an old record and sound fills the cabin, and for a few minutes whatever is left of R doesn't feel entirely dead. That, right there, is the first education this story offers. Something in us survives. Even after everything, grief, trauma, numbness, the worst kind of becoming, some small, stubborn part of who we are refuses to go entirely quiet. Scientists studying trauma and identity call it the residual self. R doesn't know that word, but he's living proof of the idea. He and M and a loose cluster of other zombies eventually do what zombies do. They go out to eat. They move in a slow pack through the city, past collapsed buildings and burned-out cars, and a world that looks like a sentence that stopped in the middle. The city outside the airport used to be beautiful, maybe. Now it's just the aftermath. The living, meanwhile, have fortified themselves behind a massive wall, tall, concrete, reinforced, a city within the ruins of a city. Inside it, humanity's survivors are doing the only thing humans can do when everything falls apart. Trying to rebuild structure. There are soldiers. There are rules. There is a leader named General Grigio, a man who has processed the end of the world by becoming harder than the wall he built. He trains his people the same way, hard, clinical, with no room for sentimentality. Sentimentality, in his view, got the world killed. His daughter is Julie Grigio, and she is not her father. She goes on supply runs. She volunteers for missions into the dead city beyond the wall because she refuses to live small even inside a crisis. She's smart, she's fast, she's brave in the unself-conscious way that people are brave when they haven't stopped to think about being scared yet. She has a boyfriend, Perry Kelvin, a soldier, and a best friend named Nora, who is both medically trained and the kind of person who says what everyone else is thinking. Today, Julie's team is on a run, pharmaceuticals. They move through a hospital in full tactical gear, quiet and efficient, gathering supplies. Perry is there. Nora is there. A handful of other soldiers. They've done this before. They know the risks. What they don't know is that ours pack is in the same building. The two groups find each other in a long corridor, and everything that was calm becomes chaos in seconds. Gunshots, screaming, running. Perry fires. Zombies attack. The soldiers are trained but outnumbered. In the scramble, R sees Julie. And something happens in whatever is left of his chest. Something seizes. Something stutters back to life like an old engine catching a single spark. He doesn't eat her. He doesn't understand why. He should. His body wants to. The hunger is there, the instinct is firing, but something else fires louder. He grabs her. Not to attack, to pull her away, to put himself between her and the rest of his pack, to hide her. He takes her hands and he runs. Hey, before we go any further, drop in the comments. Where are you watching this from? And what time is it where you are right now? I want to see how far this story has reached. Let's go. Perry Kelvin dies in that hospital corridor. R kills him. That part is not soft, not poetic, not clean. It is the ugliest fact in this story, and it sits right at the center of everything that follows. Perry fights hard, but R overwhelms him, and in the grim biological logic of what R has become, he eats part of Perry's brain. Here is where the story does something genuinely remarkable, and where, if you stop to think about it, the science underneath the fiction is more interesting than the fiction itself. When R consumes Perry's brain, he doesn't just get sustenance. He gets memories. Perry's memories, flashes of Julie laughing, arguing, alive, real, flood through R's consciousness like water through a cracked wall. He experiences her through the eyes of the man who loved her. He feels what Perry felt, the warmth of it, the weight of it. This idea that memory is stored in the body and not just the mind is something neuroscientists have actually explored. Paul Pearsall and others have documented cases of transplant recipients reporting emotional memories or personality shifts following organ transplants. The body remembers. The cells carry something. Warm Bodies takes that idea and pushes it to its most extreme, most emotional conclusion. What if the dead could access the lives of the living just by contact? R doesn't have the vocabulary for any of this. He just knows that after Perry's memories, something has shifted in him. And when he looks at Julie terrified, pressed against a wall, staring at him, he cannot let her become what Perry became. He disguises her, rubs zombie smell on her wrists and neck, keeps her close, walks her through the terminal like she's one of them. The other zombies drift past. A few look. M looks longer than the rest. Something registers in those clouded eyes, but he doesn't move against her. Julie is, understandably, not having any of this. She demands answers he can't give. He can barely form words. They come out broken, effortful, like someone speaking through a wall of wet concrete. Don't. Eat. Safe. That's all he can get out. It's not a compelling pitch. She looks at him the way any sane person would look at the dead thing that just kidnapped them, with terror that is quickly curdling into fury. But she can't run. The airport is full of zombies, and R, inexplicably, stubbornly, keeps steering her away from the ones who would hurt her. He takes her to his 747. He puts records on. He sits across from her while Springsteen fills the cabin, and he watches her face cycle through emotions, fear, confusion, disbelief, and then, slowly, something more complicated. Because he's playing records. Because there are snow globes and paintings and evidence everywhere that whoever this thing used to be, it was someone who cared about things. You don't collect vinyl records and a painting and a snow globe by accident. You don't do that out of instinct. You do that because some part of you still reaches toward beauty, even when beauty has no practical survival value whatsoever. Julie is too smart to ignore this. "What are you?" she asks. He doesn't have enough words for that answer. But the question itself, what are you? Instead of, what is that, is a shift she probably doesn't notice yet, but we do. She's stopped thinking of him as an it. Days pass. Slowly, in fits and starts, a language develops between them. He plays her music she recognizes. She talks partly from nerves, partly because silence with a dead thing is unbearable, and he listens with an intensity that she's never experienced before. Perry used to half listen, distracted, already thinking about the next mission. Listens like every word she says is being stored somewhere important. Because it is. He shows her the city from the roof of the airport. He takes her to places he's found, beautiful remnants of the old world. She starts calling him R because that's all he gives her. He starts smiling, or something near it. The muscles of his face remember slowly what smiling is. And here's the second education this story offers. Connection is neurological. When humans bond, when they feel genuinely seen and known, the brain releases oxytocin. The heart rate synchronizes, stress hormones drop. Something physical changes in the body in the presence of someone who makes us feel safe. R is dead. He has no heartbeat. But something that functions like those responses begins happening in him the longer he's around Julie. A warmth, a slowing of the hunger, a narrowing of focus, not onto prey, but onto her. He is changing. He doesn't know how. He doesn't know why. He just knows he doesn't want to stop. But Julie is General Grigio's daughter. She knows the wall is looking for her. She knows she has to go back eventually. And she knows, even as something unexpected and confusing grows in the space between her and this strange, quiet, card-playing dead boy, that the world outside this airport would not understand, would never understand. The night before she tells him she has to leave, they sit on the roof together and watch the city below, dark, ruined, silent. He wants to tell her that she changed something in him. He doesn't have the words, so he puts the needle down on a record. And in that broken, beautiful, complicated silence, the feeling says everything the words can't. When she goes, he watches her climb down. He doesn't stop her. And M, standing beside him in the dark, makes a sound that R has never heard from another zombie before. Something that might be, if you squint at it from the right angle, a sigh. Julie makes it back to the walled city. But she doesn't feel the way she expected to feel. She expected relief. She gets disorientation instead. The streets inside the wall are clean, organized, functioning, but they feel somehow smaller than they did before she left. Like she went somewhere that expanded her idea of what was possible. And now everything that was supposed to feel like safety feels a little like a cage. Nora notices immediately. Nora notices everything. She corners Julie in their shared quarters and stares at her with the particular focused attention of a best friend who knows you've been changed by something you haven't told her about yet. What happened out there? Julie tells her. Nora's face does several things in a short amount of time: disbelief, concern, tactical alarm, and then remarkably settles into something closer to fascination. Because Nora is a medical person, and a medical person, when confronted with the impossible, tends to want to examine it rather than run from it. You're saying he hid you, protected you, from the others. Yes. And he didn't try to... No. Nora sits with this for a long moment, then. That's not supposed to happen. It's not. In every framework the survivors have built to understand their world, zombies are a fixed category. Irreversibly dead, irreversibly dangerous, beyond redemption or communication, or any relationship more complex than threat and response. General Grigio built his entire leadership philosophy on this premise. The wall exists because of this premise. The training, the missions, the rules, all of it rests on the foundational belief that once someone crosses the line into undeath, they are gone. There is no coming back. Julie is sitting on information that could collapse that framework entirely, and she has no idea what to do with it. She tries to go back to normal. She goes to training. She eats in the mess hall. She talks to people. But R is in her head, not romantically yet, not with full clarity, but as a question she can't stop asking. What does it mean if one of them can change? Meanwhile, back at the airport, R is already changing faster. The change is physical now, not just emotional. Small signs, a slight warmth in his fingertips, a dreaming state that he didn't have before, where faces and voices and half-formed images move through him like a slow tide. His heartbeat, which has been still for as long as he can remember, gives a single muted thud one night that he feels rather than hears. He presses his palm to his chest, holds it there, waiting. Nothing follows. But the one beat was enough to terrify and electrify him in equal measure. M notices. M, who has been shuffling alongside R for years, is close enough to see the difference. And here is where something unprecedented begins to ripple outward, because M starts dreaming too. Then another zombie, then another. Slowly, quietly, like a fire that doesn't know yet how big it's going to get, the change moves through the airport population. Zombies who have had no inner life begin to have flickers of one. They stir in their sleep. They look at each other differently, not with the blank, scanning hunger of predators, but with something halting and unsure, like people who have forgotten how to make eye contact and are relearning. The Bonies see this, and the Bonies respond the only way they know how, with aggression. The Bonies are not changing. They have gone too far, hollowed out too completely. Whatever human ember was left in them burned out long ago. They are pure appetite now, nothing more. And in a world where they have always been the apex, watching the lesser undead soften and hesitate and dream, is not just strange to them, it is a threat. They begin to move against the changing zombies. Not eating them, the dead don't eat the dead, but driving them out, attacking them, enforcing through violence the only rule that has ever governed their world. The living feel, the dead do not. If you are starting to feel, you are becoming something that the bonies do not have a category for, and things without categories get destroyed. R knows he has to find Julie again, not because of simple longing, though that is there, a constant low-frequency pull, but because something in him understands, even without the words to articulate it, that she is connected to whatever is happening, that she is somehow the origin point of a change that is now moving outward through the dead in waves. He leaves the airport. It's the most remarkable thing a zombie has done since the world ended, choosing a direction based on something other than hunger, walking towards something instead of simply away from nothing. M watches him go. Then M follows. Then 3 more zombies fall in behind them, shuffling in a loose column through the dead city streets, moving toward the wall. What is it that moves a person, or something near a person, to walk toward connection even when every physical law of their existence says, stay? Psychologists call it approach motivation, the biological drive that pulls organisms toward reward rather than simply away from threat. Fear keeps you alive, but love, belonging, meaning, those are what make being alive worth the trouble. R has no psychology textbook. He just walks. R reaches the wall with M and a handful of other zombies at his back. He can't go in. He's recognizably dead. But he finds Julie first, at the outskirts, and her reaction when she sees him standing in a dead city street is one of those moments where a face does all the writing a script can't. Shock, then alarm, then something she tries very hard to suppress and fails completely. He came back. He walked through a city full of things that would kill him, and he came back. For her, she gets him inside. This is where Nora becomes essential, because Nora brilliantly has been quietly putting together a theory about R and the other changing zombies, and she's been gathering the kind of medical evidence that gives the theory weight. Elevated cell activity in the areas of the brain associated with emotion and memory. Something is regenerating, slowly and completely, partially, but regenerating. The dead are not supposed to do that. Bodies in true biological death do not reverse their entropy, which means Nora concludes that the full death that happened to the world, whatever virus or event caused the collapse, is not the complete story. There's something happening at the intersection of emotion and biology that nobody has mapped yet. Julie takes this to her father. She has to. She can't carry this information alone and expect it to do any good. General Grigio's power is real, and the wall's survival has depended on his decisions. If there's a chance, any chance, that some of the undead are reversing, that knowledge needs to be in the hands of someone with authority to act on it. She finds him in his command room, surrounded by tactical maps and the controlled military efficiency he has built as a monument to his own grief. His wife is dead. He knows this. He processed it the only way he could, by making himself into a machine and teaching everyone around him to do the same. He is not cruel. He is not evil. He is a man who loved something, lost it, and decided the only safe response to love was to never be that vulnerable again. Julie tries to tell him what she saw, what R is, what the changing zombies might mean. He listens because he's her father and he loves her in the only hard closed-off way he's still able to, and then he dismisses it. Not because he's foolish, because acknowledging it would require dismantling everything he has built. The wall isn't just concrete and steel. It's his belief system. It's the framework that makes him feel like he's still doing something right in a world that went completely wrong. They are dead, he tells her. Dead things do not come back. What if you're wrong? She asks. He doesn't answer. But the way he doesn't answer tells her everything. R, hiding with Nora, is meanwhile navigating something just as complicated. The interior of a living city. Everything is strange, bright, warm, smelling of food and people, and the 1,000 small biological signatures of the living. He is overwhelmed. He presses himself against walls in narrow corridors and tries to make his face do things that won't alarm people passing by. He is almost convincing. Almost. I need you to hit that subscribe button. Because what happens next, what R does when the bonies breach the wall and the choice becomes permanent, is the kind of ending that you need to watch from start to finish. Every video I make is built for people who want the full story told right. If you're here for that, subscribe and hit the bell. Don't miss what's coming. Then the bonies come. They hit the wall in numbers no one anticipated, because the bonies don't just hunt the living now. They are also coming for the changing zombies who followed R. The two threats merge into one, and the wall that Grigio built and believed in begins, for the first time, to fail. Alarms, gunshots, soldiers running. The careful order of the walled city fractures like glass dropped on stone. Julie runs toward the chaos rather than away from it. She is her father's daughter in exactly one way, and that way is toward, always toward. Nora runs with her. R runs too. Not away, toward. In the chaos and the noise and smoke and terror of the Boney attack, something crystallizes for her, R, that no amount of quiet airport afternoons could have produced. Love, the real kind, the kind that makes you a different person in the presence of another person, is not a feeling you can think your way through. It is a decision made under pressure, it is. I choose you even here, especially here. He runs toward Julie. The wall breaks in two places simultaneously and the Bonies pour through. They are terrifying in the way that pure instinct, unmoderated by anything recognizable as feeling, is always terrifying, fast, skeletal, without hesitation or fear or self-preservation, because self-preservation requires valuing a self and they have none left. They move through the outer corridors of the city like water through a breach, and the soldiers who were trained to fight regular zombies are not fully prepared for creatures that don't flinch. R finds Julie in the chaos and they move together, through corridors past fighting soldiers, through fire and noise. M is there. The other changing zombies are there. And here is where the story pivots on something quietly extraordinary. The changing zombies begin fighting the Bonies. Not for the humans exactly. Not with any political allegiance or strategic framework. They fight because the Bonies are attacking Julie. And Julie, in the strange economy of what has happened to them, has become something they instinctively protect. She is the origin point of something new. She is proof that feeling is possible. Whatever is regenerating in them, it started in R's proximity to her and radiated outward, and on some level they understand, in the wordless way that things understand before they have the language for it, that she is connected to their becoming. The Bonies do not understand this. They only understand the threat of it. The battle is brutal. M takes real damage. Other changing zombies go down. Not the theatrical falling of horror films, but the hard, permanent stopping of things that tried to be alive again and almost made it. R watches this and feels grief. Actual grief. Not the flat, hollow nothingness of undead existence, but the real ache of witnessing loss. His chest is doing things it hasn't done in years. His heart is beating. Not metaphorically. Physically. Unevenly, stuttering, but present. A fist knocking against a door it's been locked behind for what feels like forever. General Grigio finds them in one of the wider corridors. Julie and R, together, surrounded by the wreckage of the Boney assault. He sees what R is, identifies the threat with the ruthless efficiency of a man who has spent years doing exactly this, and raises his weapon. And Julie steps between them. Dad. He doesn't lower the weapon. He has trained himself not to let love override function. But she is his daughter, and she is standing between him and the thing he's about to shoot, with her hands at her sides and her chin lifted and her eyes telling him, without a single word, look at him. Actually look. Grigio looks. R looks back. His eyes are not the flat gray of the dead. They are something else now. Warmer, more present, more there. He is bleeding rather than oozing. His face is doing things that faces are supposed to do. He is not a zombie standing in a corridor. He is something caught between states, leaning hard toward one of them. Grigio lowers the weapon. Not because he's convinced. Not because ideology changed in an instant. Because his daughter is standing there, alive, unharmed. And this thing she is protecting kept her that way. He is, underneath everything he's built on top of it, a father first. The Bonies are repelled. It takes time, it takes every soldier and every changing zombie working in parallel and accidental concert. But the wall holds. The breach is sealed. What remains after the smoke clears is a city shaken down to its foundations, still standing but aware, suddenly, that the foundations it was built on may have needed to shift. In the aftermath, something medical happens to R that Nora has been half predicting and fully hoping for. The warmth that started in his fingertips spreads. His heart, which started stuttering during the battle, settles into something like a rhythm. The gray drains from his skin. Not overnight, not completely, but enough. Measurably, verifiably enough. Nora takes his pulse and her hands are shaking. R and Julie stand on the roof of a building in the walled city. Below them, the world is beginning the slow, disorganized, necessary work of reconsidering itself. Soldiers who have spent years seeing the undead as one fixed category are confronted with M and the other, changing zombies, exhausted, damaged, but unmistakably, uncomplicatedly, there. Present, neither fully dead nor fully alive, but pointed in one direction with everything they have. Grigio is below somewhere, behind closed doors, sitting with something that a man who built a wall to keep out what he couldn't control should probably sit with. The possibility that the world is not sorted into the categories he made for it. The dead are not all irreversibly gone. The living are not all irreversibly safe. The wall, the actual wall, and every wall built out of grief and fear and the need to stop feeling is not a permanent solution. It is a delay, and whatever is on the other side, you eventually have to face it. Julie and R stand in the early morning. The city below is quiet, not the dead quiet that R knew for years in the terminal, but the alive quiet of things breathing and existing, and not yet needing to be anything other than present. "Are you real?" she asks him. Not cruelly, genuinely. He thinks about it. He thinks about the airport, the vinyl records, the snow globes, the terrible shuffling years of not quite nothing. He thinks about Perry's memories and how they tasted like someone else's life but felt, somehow, like a map back to his own. He thinks about walking through a dead city toward a wall, because something on the other side of it was worth walking toward. "I think," he says, and the words come easier now, not perfectly, but easier, "I think I'm becoming real." She takes his hand, not dramatically, quietly, the way people take hands when something is beginning rather than ending. Below the wall, the changing continues. M is sitting down, which is remarkable. He hasn't sat voluntarily since before he can remember. One of the other changing zombies is laughing. It's broken and strange, and they're not sure why they're laughing, but they're doing it anyway. Laughter without a reason is one of the most human things there is. The Bonies who retreated beyond the wall will return. That isn't a happy ending. It's just reality. You don't dismantle fear and grief and the appetite for destruction in a single battle. The wall will have to hold. But the wall now has more on its side than concrete. It has proof. Proof that the line between what's lost and what can come back is not as fixed as everyone believed. That the choice to feel, even when feeling is dangerous, even when it costs something, even when every instinct says go numb, is the thing that keeps you on the right side of the line between alive and gone. R squeezes Julie's hand. His heart beats, twice this time, then a third, and the airport, empty now, sits quiet under a sky that is the same sky it always was. Only the people standing under it have changed. Some of them for the better. Some of them for the first time. The story of warm bodies is underneath all the zombies and walls and gunfire. A story about one of the oldest questions human beings have ever asked. Can something dead inside you come back? Can grief, numbness, disconnection, can those things be reversed? The science of neuroplasticity says yes. The brain is not fixed. The self is not static. Connection, real connection, the kind where someone sees you and you feel it, changes us biologically. R changed because Julie saw him, not what he was, what he was still capable of being. If this story hit you somewhere real, you know what to do. Like this video. Share it with somebody who needs to hear it. And if you're new here, this is what we do. Stories that make you feel something, told the way they deserve to be told. Subscribe and come back. There's more.